Hello everybody, Alyssa here. Sorry for the complete silence over all of July. I did do some reading though in July. Honestly, there was maybe like two, maybe three books and or series where I was like, yep, these are great, I love them. But they were rereads. They were rereads. So, you know, July wasn't really a good month. But anyways, I'm gonna show you guys what all I read, what I thought about them. Also, if you guys can hear my fan in the background, I apologize. It's hot. So, with that said, let's go ahead and let's jump into what I read in the month of July. So I'm gonna go over the ebooks first because I did read a few ebooks. A lot of them are, I think all of them were short stories. I have my list here. Yeah, they were all short stories. They were all prequels to like a larger series. So books that all of them you can pick up for free on Kindle. So with that said, we'll start with the one ebook that I actually did really like, and that would be 7 Vampires, a Judge D mystery by Lavi Tidar. I love this little short story series that Tidar writes for Tor. It's a little vampire. He's got his little human assistant, and he goes around and he solves mysteries within the vampire world. In this particular one, they're trying to flee. I think it's Paris. I think they're trying to flee, if I remember correctly. And they get into a group with other vampires, minus Jonathan, who's the human servant to Judge D. And one by one, they all start dying off. And Judge D, even though he wasn't called to solve this mystery, since he's with everybody, he's like, well, we're gonna solve this mystery. So that was the whole point of it. It was just trying to solve the mystery. I actually was not able to figure out who the killer was, because I think Tidar does a really good job of like hiding who the person who's doing it is within these little stories. They're short little stories. They're like 40 to like 52 pages long, so you can read them within like an hour at most. So that one was fun. It was probably the best out of all. It was. I'm not even gonna say probably. It was the best of the ebooks that I read. Then there is the Henchman Chronicles by Craig Holleran. I'll have the picture will be here. I forgot to write his name down because that's what I do. This one was just action, which is fine, I guess. A lot of the dialogue was like very cringy. Like I sat there going over a lot of the dialogue, so I didn't really care for that. And then overall, it just kind of really felt like it was just action and no story. So I believe I gave it like 2.5 stars. Then after that, by the same author, we have The Quest for the Thunderstone. This one I rated lower than the Henchman one because it tells us nothing as to what this Thunderstone is, why the main character is trying to find the Thunderstone, why it's important, what the point of the quest was. It was just action. We gotta find a Thunderstone. Okay, why? Why do we need to find it? What is it for? So I don't really feel it was the best setup for a series because it gave nothing, in my opinion. Then we have Never, the prequel to the Amber Isle. And this one I actually did enjoy. It gives you a good solid background on who Never is, because Never is a person. It gives you a glimpse into Never's magic. It gives you hints well, it's not really magic, it's a curse. So it gives you that. It gives you a few hints into how it works, but also like how he possibly came about to have it. You get to like meet who I'm assuming is probably a villain. And then there was this little boy named Tamilo. I need to know if Tamilo is okay. Because one of my favorite tropes in books is I'm a grumpy man who works by myself. Oh, look at this child who's now stuck with me, and I'm basically this child's father. I love that trope. While that's not exactly what's going on in here, it has callbacks to it, because Never is like, oh, I do things on my own, I do it when I want. He's not so much grumpy or anything, but he's like, I got to do my own thing, I do it on my own. And then he helps this kid, and then this kid comes back and helps him. And I love that dynamic. You know, so I enjoyed that. And so I do have the first book in the series for that one. I just haven't gotten around to starting it, but I do have an interest in going into it further. So that's all the ebooks that I read. This next one, it was a library book that I had. I don't have it anymore because I returned it. But it was called Perihelion Summer by Greg Egan, I believe. I don't remember anything about this book. When I think about it, I'm just like, did I read that? I mean, all of my book logs say I did. My Goodreads said, because I didn't write a review. My Goodreads say I read it. My Storygraph says I read it. My spreadsheet says I read it. And I'm just like, I don't remember one single aspect about this book. So I couldn't tell you guys what it's about. My brain has no recollection of reading this book, and I'm so sorry that I can't tell you guys about it, but apparently I read it and I gave it 3 stars. Now we will get into the physical books that I read. And we will start with The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This was actually my very first time ever reading The Wind in the Willows. Shocker, I know. There's a lot of classics that I've never read, and this was one of them. I was familiar with it thanks to Disney's The Tale of Mr. Toad and Ichabod Crane, that duo movie that they did years ago. But the Mr. Toad portion of that is a very cut up version of this story. But this was adorable. It was sweet. It was relaxing. Like, I wanted to be a little critter living in the forest, just sitting in my boat, rowing down the river. That's what I wanted to do when I was done reading this. I will say I did have an issue physically reading it myself. The sentence structures, for whatever reason, when attempting to read it myself, my brain was stumbling over them. Not sure why, but when I went and picked up the ebook, everything snapped into place. I was able to listen to it. I could understand the sentences and everything. Just for whatever reason, reading it myself was very difficult. But at least I was able to do that. So I say, if you do decide to pick this up and you find yourself struggling over sentence structures, pick up the audiobook and give that one a shot, and maybe that'll make your experience easier, because it was getting to the point where I was like, I don't know if I can read this because I'm struggling to understand the structure of these sentences. But then the audiobook allowed me to finish it, and I'm actually really glad, because I ended up really enjoying this and loving it, and it was just fun. It was just fun and adorable. Then we have Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I gave this 3 stars, and I did not write a review about it. It's one of those ones where, like, there were elements that I was enjoying, but then a lot of the time I was just like, why is this story still going? Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, a lot of the time, like, it just felt so elongated, and it just felt like it just kept going and going and going. And I was just like, why is it still going? Why? Like, everything felt stretched out. The magic was interesting. I think a lot of it, from how I understood it, was like imagery. magic. Some of it honestly didn't make a lot of sense. It was hard to understand. It was hard to like get behind. The characters, they were fine for the most part. I did like the friend more than the main character. She turns into like this like tree lady or whatever, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I just kind of like enjoyed her character in general. The main character was all right. She was stubborn, you know. She didn't like to always listen to what everybody around her had to tell her. The dragon, who's a person, he's like your standard morally gray love interest dude. Not my jam. I like soft boys. You know, just it was all right. I felt bad for the prince, you know, what happens with him and his mother. I felt bad for them, but like overall, like it's not something that really like stuck with me. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, it was a book. Could have been shorter. Could have. I think really so much. It's not so much the fact that it was just too long. It felt long. Like you could feel the length of the book, because like I said, I kept just sitting here going, why is this book still going? Because I listened to the audiobook on top of that, which was a little difficult at times because the narrator had a Slavic Russian accent in that realm. So because that's where the characters are based upon, and it was a little difficult sometimes to understand the accent, so I had to do an immersive read sometimes. But like, she did a good job reading it. It was just sometimes the accent was pretty heavy, and I was just like, I need to rewind because I don't know what you just said. But yeah, it was good. But like I said, like you could feel the length of the book, and I don't really care for that. So it was all right. So after that, I ended up reading Dragon Quest, book 2 in the Dragon Riders of Pern series, because I am trying to read all 26 books. I was supposed to start in January. That did not happen. But this was the first time I've ever read Dragon Quest, and I enjoyed it. It focused more on Fëanor, who I loved Fëanor in the first book because that guy was so open about his hatred towards Kylara. He was, I don't like that woman, leave her, get away from me. But it focuses on him and the girl he falls in love with. His dragon, Canth. Oh, I love Canth so much. And the thing that I really like is like the dragons are like very picky as to like who they end up like. Obviously they like the person they're linked to, but like Anne makes you know that like, oh, if the dragons care about someone else, like they will use their name. If not, they don't bother learning that person's name. And Canth was like, Brecky, there's Brecky. Is Brecky okay? And I'm just like, Canth likes her. You know, and like I loved that little aspect. Like Canth is just like a sweetheart, but he's also like just he's not full of himself, but he's proud of himself. Like it's kind of like that. Because he's a brown dragon, so he's not a bronze. He's a brown, so he's lower than the bronzes. And he always likes to flaunt that, well, I'm bigger than all the old bronzes. He always flaunts that, you know. He's always like, and when they were talking about like having to like do the flight with the queen who Brecky has, you know, he's like, I could take on those bronzes. I could take on those old bronzes. I'm a big brown. And I loved it, you know. There are some very like heartbreaking things that do happen in this one though. I was crying. The main plot of it though is the fact that the old timers who came forward 400 turns from the first book are now starting to like really revert back to a lot of their old ways of doing things and wanting to separate. That's a word. Separate the holds from the weirs and have all the holds give tithe to the weirs, and basically just kind of be like, we're dragon men, we get to do whatever we want, and you guys have to listen to us. And Flar and Fëanor and all the new dragon riders are like, yeah, we're trying to be friends with people. So that was like the main basis of the plot. You also get to see how the white dragon comes in. You get to see, this is actually the first appearance of the fire lizards. I thought that was the Harper Hall trilogy. No, it's this one. Just so many like new things are like introduced into it. It's just kind of like how in the last book so many things are introduced, but they don't play a part until like later on in the series. So yes, I ended up really enjoying this. I still have to write my review for it, but by the end of the book, I do still prefer Fëanor over Flar. I just think he's hilarious. I just think he's so funny. So yeah, Dragon Quest, a good one. So then after that, I went into the third book. So for this Dragon Riders of Pern series, I'm reading them in publication order, which is the order that Anne McCaffrey recommends. So the third book would actually be Dragon Song and not the White Dragon. So I went into Dragon Song, and the Harper Hall trilogy is actually my favorite out of all the Pern books. I love Mentally with all of my heart, and even still, I am so jealous of her to this day, to have the ability to run away from your hold, stumble upon a whole clutch of dragon fire lizard eggs, and get 9 of them all for yourself. She's living my dreams. She's living my freaking dreams. But also, one of the things that I hadn't realized, because I had read this one so many times, I never realized that the events that happen at the end of this book take place at the same time as this one. Because she shows up there during the hatching at the end of this one, and so she gets to see all of that, and so we get to like relive that experience through Mentally view and everything, and also, you know, we get to see, because this one also goes into the whole like her father and her mother are like, you're a woman, you can't be a Harper. Harpers are only for men. And their old Harper, who was a guy, was like, Mentally has a talent for music, and I'm going to let the Master Robinson know this. But of course, he does it by not telling Master Robinson that it's a girl who wrote those new songs, you know? And Master Robinson is just like, if he had told us we were looking for a girl, so many things would have been different. And Master Robinson is like so open to the idea of a woman Harper. Like, he's just like, she's got skill, like, let's do this. And so it's another one of those ones where you can see the progress of things trying to change on Pern. But other than that, it's Mentally, and all of her fire lizards are adorable. Her interactions with everybody. There is a moment where, because one of the things that like doesn't really happen a whole lot in these books is like, you're not really raised by the person who birthed you. It's a communal thing. Especially in the Dragon Weirs, it's a very communal thing, and like they're very open to adopting children that are not their own. And one of the ladies tells this to her, and she just burst out in tears because like she's always felt unloved by her own parents. And I was just like, oh my god, I remember these feelings from when I was a teenager and I first read this. So yes, to this day I still absolutely love this one. It's just, it's amazing, and it's a very quick read. It goes by so quickly. And Mentally is like the kind of character that you can just really fall in love with, because everything in her life sucks and she's trying so hard to change it by running away. You know, and then like even after she finally escapes and, you know, she like begs everybody to not send her home, like they all kind of realize things aren't okay for this girl. And I really appreciated that everybody was kind of recognizing that like her life back home was not good. So another great read. Really enjoyed it. So then I also read some mangas. I read Fist of the North Star, volume 4, and then volume 5. Again, like I told you guys, if you guys have watched Mad Max, because I still haven't, these have those Mad Max 5s. Why I know this, I don't know, because I've only seen the commercial 100 times. But like, if you look at them, they're just like, it's a post-apocalyptic dystopian thing. But just, I know the main character's brothers are starting to show up. They're all fighting for, to have the power that the main character has, Ken. They're action-packed. I enjoy them. They pushed back volume 6, so I'm upset. I gotta wait longer to read it. Then we have Witches by Daisuke Igarashi, the complete collection. I think there are 3 short stories in this revolving around witches, and they're witches around the world. Some want revenge for how they were treated when they were younger. Some are looking for love. You know, some there's one that like takes place like half in space and half not. It's a very weird and interesting little collection, where some of the stories that get kind of like dark and odd. So it's definitely one of those ones where it's like it's really hard for me to like kind of explain what it is, because I've never really, it's the first time I've ever read it. But yeah, it's just 3 little stories about witches around the world and what they do with their magic. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. This one counts as both a reread and a first time read because of the additions. It's Sayuki by Kazuya Minakura. This is my favorite manga of all time. It is a retelling of the Journey to the West, the Chinese story Journey to the West. You follow Genjo Sanzo. He's my favorite. He is a gun-smoking, toting priest. In his group, he has Shagojo, Son Goku, and Chohakai. He is half demon, half human. That is taboo. Shouldn't happen. Well, yokai. They use the word yokai. He is half yokai, half human. He's got the red hair and the red eyes. That's how you know he is of both blood. Super looked down upon. Not a good thing. Son Goku, the monkey god. That's really all you need to know who he is. He looks like he's like 15, 16, but he's like in the hundreds because he's been living for a very long time. There is a prequel series called Genzo Maiden, where you see him with the previous incarnations of all these characters. And then there's Chohakai, a human who became a yokai because he killed so many yokai and was drenched in so much of their blood that it turned him into a yokai. Now, when I say it's both a reread as well as a new read, is the fact that these are the new translations, because these are the new resurrected editions that Kodansha did. And so this is all 9 volumes in 4. Yeah, because I have my original 9 volumes still. And I actually ended up comparing a lot of the translations to the original translations, and there is one particular scene where when I instantly read it, I was like, that's not what Hakai said. And I have to say that the original translation from when I was a teen, way better, because the whole scene revolves around, the whole arc revolves around a girl who is being very prejudiced against yokai, because what happened was humans and yokai, they live together in harmony. Now there's something going on, and all the yokai are going crazy and they're killing the humans. And this little girl, she lost her friend to a yokai. And so now she's like, I hate yokai, they're all horrible, they're all evil, those kind of things. And Sanzo, who is the human of the group, the priest, him and the other 3 who are all yokai in some form or another, they save her. And at the end of the chapter, in the new version, Hakai makes a comment where he tells her, I hope that you'll never forget there's nothing meaningful separating us. The minute I read that, I was like, that's not what he said. That's not what he said in the original. And mind you, I know that these are new translations, but in the original, he says, that you should never judge someone based on their race, because that was the whole point of the arc. She was judged because she was saved by 3 yokai. And he literally tells her that you should never judge someone based on what their race is. And I think that translation is better than there's nothing meaningful separating us. Like, I think just spelling it out straight out of what Hakai is trying to tell her is the fact that, like, just because I'm a yokai and you're a human doesn't mean you should hate me just because I'm a yokai. So there were a few things like that. They also had inconsistencies with translating Sanzo's chants, because he does, Buddhist chants and stuff. Sometimes they translated them, sometimes they didn't. It was weird. But overall, I still love it. It's still my favorite manga of all time. The characters still had the same vibe. For the most part, the translations were pretty much exactly the same. There was just a few moments where they didn't translate it to where it held the same kind of impact, or they just got lazy and didn't translate the chants or whatever. So yeah, overall though, I enjoyed reading all of it, and I recommend this manga to anybody and everybody. Like I said, it's a retelling of the Journey to the West with yokai and everything in the mix. And honestly, the villain, the bad guy, Kogaiji, you could fall in love with him. You do. Because he's not that kind of bad guy. He's not. He's the bad guy you feel bad for. Because I love him. So also, I will say though that there are like some very questionable themes. There is a incest storyline. There is a lot of death, suicide, mutilation, all of that kind of stuff. So do be aware of that when reading it, if you decide to pick it up. Pretty sure you can find trigger warnings somewhere online, but yeah, it does have some questionable content in it. So then, to end this video, there are 2 books that I started in July and I have not finished, and I'm not positive if I'm going to finish them or not. So first we have The Dragon Round by Stephen S. Power. It's boats, it's dragons, it's like pirates. So far, what I've read, I've enjoyed it, but it's not so much to the point where like it's calling me back. Like I've read this much so far. I've also heard other like reviews about it where people are like, first half great, second half it's a train wreck. So I guess that's kind of like been putting me off a little bit from it. But yeah, dragons and pirates. And then the other one that I started would be Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is what I've read so far, and it's just honestly been money. And if there is one thing I hate most of all, it is the concept of money. I hate the concept of money. So not really digging that. Again, I can feel the length of the story, which is frustrating. At this point, I'm kind of inclined to believe that I might just not be a fan of Novik's writing. So I was doing the audiobook with this, and I have gotten it and returned it 4 times. Just because like my time with it ran out, but apparently everybody else wants to read this book too. So I couldn't renew it. I have to like get back on the wait list. So yeah, that is the other one that I started. Not really sure if I'm going to be finishing it or not. So that is my wrap up for July. This video is kind of a mess. This is the first time I've done a wrap up. So hopefully it's not too terrible and you guys were able to grasp what I was saying. So if you guys enjoyed this, leave a comment. If you've read any of these books, leave a comment below. If you have any questions, again, leave a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, like it. If you would like to come back for more videos, I know I'm very inconsistent right now and I apologize for that. But subscribing would be nice. Might even encourage me a little bit more to try and stay more consistent. But yeah, Until then, bye.